The focus of his building work shifted from the religious sanctuaries to the city below. Like modern-day Athens, it was a busy center of trade. At its heart was the agorá.
The agorá was extremely important. It's a marketplace, it's a political center, it's a social center. It's basically the middle of town in all respects.
Today, the agorá lies in ruins. In the past, it's been attacked by barbarian invaders and built on by private homeowners. But it is possible to recreate what it looked like in Pericles' time, when these 30 acres were the center of the most advanced civilization on Earth. John Camp is a world authority on the building of the agorá. He spent more than 3 decades trying to piece together what it looked like. Within this one plot were busy streets, a collection of temples, a marketplace, and the first ever Senate House.
The agorá in Periclean times would have been quite impressive. It would have been lined with stoas, which are big, long, colonnaded buildings in which you could take shelter from the sun or from the rain, depending on the weather, and it will have been full of people.
Here was built another stunning temple, very different from the Parthenon. Called the Hephaestion, it was dedicated to the craftsman who made Pericles' vision a reality. By making this gesture, Pericles was acknowledging the root of his power, the support of his people.
It's one of the best preserved temples in antiquity, so it's a little hard to see how it goes together. When you come down here, you can see pieces of its virtual twin, which was set up down in the lower square. And from this you can see that the building is made pretty much all of marble. No mortar was used. The individual pieces were held together with iron clamps, such as the one you see here, and iron dowels, and you can still see the piece of iron and a little bit of the lead used to hold it in place, along with the pry hole used to get the next big block in place. This here is a step block, and everything above here in that direction would have been the second step, so all these marks would have been covered.
The Hephaestion stood on the edge of the agorá. At its center stood the council chamber. To build it, workers leveled ground, created artificial terraces, and built into the rock. The building techniques used were tried and tested, but what happened inside the building was revolutionary. This building was the birthplace of democracy.
These walls here are all that remain of the old council chamber, built in about 500 BC. It was a very simple building with mud brick walls, a columnar facade to the south, and a bunch of wooden seats for the councillors to sit on.
A rectangular antechamber led to a large main hall. At its center, a timber roof was supported by 5 columns.
500 Athenians would be allotted every year, not elected, just picked out of a hat, to serve as the senators.
The form of democracy Athenians used was very simple. The council would present the people with the issues for discussion, litigation, taxation, or whether or not to go to war. Then the decisions were made by the people. Votes were cast by dropping a pebble into a terracotta pot. It was expected that at some point every Athenian citizen would serve on the council.
Most democracies today are representative democracies. Athens was a direct democracy. We can compare it as a working system of government to something like a New England town meeting, where everybody in the town goes to the meeting and the decisions are made by everyone.
Pericles' Athenians also developed a way of preventing any one individual from gaining too much power.
Ostracism is something we don't use anymore. It was kind of a reverse election where the Athenians had the opportunity once a year to vote somebody out of office. And the way they did it was by writing the name of the man they thought was a threat to the democracy on a piece of pottery. The Greek word for that is an ostrakon. So it was essentially being exiled for 10 years by vote of little bits of pottery.
One day, a politician might be enormously popular with the people. The next, his assets could be frozen, and he might be banished from the country for 10 years. It was a punishment Pericles never faced, despite dominating politics in Athens for more than 3 decades.